I got up early this morning, went to bed early last night too, because they're calling for winter storm conditions. And my boss, he's pretty cool. He lets me have this pretty brand new shiny tow truck that sits out in front of my house, and I none hardly ever have to get in the thing. I am like the emergency backup, so therefore I get his truck and it lives here at my house. It's his personal truck, the one that he would prefer to be driving. Lives here at my house, and it's when the doo-doo hits the wall, I get the call. And it's usually something to do with the county or city or fatal or some kind of evidentiary thing or something. Anyhow, I wake up this morning and there's like not much snow on the ground. So I went out and I shoveled my driveway and I shoveled the walk. All right. Start the truck up, let it get all warmed up because I ain't started it in over a week. I've been out here playing with you all. So we're letting that truck warm up a little bit. But today's going to be an SHIT show. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Well, we've come here once again to talk about, guess what? An amplifier. I know you tune into the amplifier YouTube channel and they're talking about amplifiers all the time. Damn, it's so boring. I kind of got this on a trade. My buddy Mr. S, he sent this up with a couple other amplifiers to rob the transistors out of it to fix his box. But there's this nice gentleman out there. His name's Toolbox. And he actually bought this thing off his buddy, Toolbox, for whatever, and it ended up coming here to get traded. Now, this is an ICA manufacturing 1x2 cabinet. He built this about, I can tell just by this green wire. ICA went through this phase where they had a lot of this little green Teflon wire. And I got to give him credit. As far as a home gamer, this thing is beautiful. I was really impressed. It is missing a couple little vital components, but and those components are flybacks. There were no flybacks in this box. The coupling resistor that goes between the input transformer and the output transformer. It's I was really impressed. I opened this up and I was like, damn. This is at the bare minimum, the necessary needed go-to how to get this done. Okay. Man, I'm not liking this. Hold on a second. Let's do this. Let's go that route. Here, it's not quite so glary now. You guys can see. This is bare minimum, but at the bare minimum, this is still 100% functionally a good thermal compound between the Toshibas and the heatsink. He's got a good capacitor in the right place with the right number of turns. He's got a good relay in here. These aren't the best PL259s in the world, but hey man, he's done better than most. Like that 2-pill Texas Star we worked on the other day. At least he's got a grommet going on. I don't know what this material makeup is. I don't know what this material makeup is or this one. I'm assuming this is type 43 and that's type 61. Just assuming. Dude, this is literally the step-by-step. Let's get the Amplifier Anarchist Cookbook and let's put this to use. And he sat down and applied it and he built this. I'm freaking awesome. Like, even the little details here, like, these are soldered instead of just crimped and forgotten about. These are actually soldered. The solder work in here, it's very minimal, but it's not bad. I don't like that he flipped the resistors forward, but so what? Like, the little details. Like, let's look right down here. Went and soldered a little pad on the input transformer to keep the input transformer from maybe accidentally touching ground. It's I dig it. And it's not like the cheapest variable resistor on the face of the earth for your input drive. That's a smooth knob, man. So Toolbox, I'm gonna give a big shout out and say, dude, good job. I think around here someplace I still might have some of that green wire. I bought a whole bunch of this way back when and I quit using it. And it's surely from an aesthetics point of view. Perfectly good stuff. High temp. Used it in a lot of boxes myself. But Toolbox, I gotta tell you, my friend, we're gonna take this thing that was once loved and put to good assemblage use by you, and we're gonna radically change it. And I mean, we're gonna radically change this thing. Lock washers behind the nuts, holding in the SO239 SO239 connectors. We're going to leave some of this in place, but we're going to change a bunch of it. I like this little fan. We'll give it a whirl. We'll see what it does. It's let's see, what is this? We'll check this out together. It's a Gauche Time brushless DC fan. 1/4 of an amp. So we'll see how many CFM this moves. If it moves enough air, we'll leave it in here and we'll keep playing with it. But Toolbox is a fan, follows the channel, is really excited to have his box here. Just that it's going to come through here, and I'm sure he's going to be very interested to see what we change. We're going to keep the relay. I like this. You see this? You know what this is? I wish new builders would get a clue on how to do this. This is your pass-through tune, right here. So the RF comes in from this coax connector. It comes in on this long piece of wire, then it hooks back, comes through the tab, across this terminal, so this would be the middle of the junction point, comes back out the relay, back out, then back out this green wire and all the way back around. Instead of just leaving this, he recognized that there was going to be a huge impedance bump with all this inductor, and to help drive this back down a controller, clamp it, or increase its potential reference to ground, he actually got out his grid dip meter and he adjusted and compensated with the capacitor. He's got an actual snubbing diode in here. A lot of new guys won't do this. Now I don't know who new this guy is. I don't know him. I don't know him. But I'm just sitting here admiring his craftsmanship going, hey man, this is got all the right parts in all the right places. It's like that first girlfriend you had. She met the bare minimum to get her, and it got the job done. Just saying. Just saying. I gotta tell you guys, since the last segment that you just watched to today has been 3 full days. That was filmed last Friday morning, before the day started. So I filmed that segment, and as you guys know, I have a part-time job where I do fill-in at a tow business, because I've done it for 15 years. So, you know, when you got the $140,000 tow truck that sits in front of your house, it's only a year old because it's the boss's truck and it lives at your house. When the snow comes, you know it's going to be bad. So Friday at 7:30 in the morning, I worked 4 accidents, 2 of which were fatal, first thing in the morning. The fatal accidents, my company has an exclusive contract with the county. So we see all the really fun stuff. And that's about as far as I'm going to take that. So we did the 4 accidents, and we're talking, that was just me. That's not the whole company. The company's actually really big. But then after that, this guy was out working underneath a car lift in one of our shops, and the lift arms weren't secured right or put properly underneath the vehicle or whatever. I don't know. I don't want to put blame on anybody, but the car somehow magically, through osmosis or something, fell off the car horn. So I went and did that, and then I did a huge evidence thing with the guy was leaving one of the gun ranges here and was getting ready to go to a gun show. And his vehicle, I'm not going to say what kind, flipped over on him because it was so grossly overloaded with ammunition. And his trailer that he had behind him was completely packed full of guns. And went and righted that whole mess and took that off. And I called my boss Friday afternoon. I said, okay, what's next? I got to go like do a recovery on Air Force One or something. I mean, it was just a crazy day, and every employee at our company had that kind of afternoon. It was just damn wild. And then it snowed and snowed. I guess the guys that work on the weekends were running their tail feathers off. I stay working there because it's not that this doesn't pay me enough. It's that I have to have the opportunity to leave here every once in a while. I really do. If I don't get to leave this space and put down the soldering iron and be able to ignore my phone for some other reason than I don't want to answer it. I tried that 10 years ago, and I did it for 3 months, and I thought I was going to kill myself because it was like Groundhog's Day. Every day was the same. You get up, come out here, work on something, do something, talk at the camera, and then go to bed. So when I called my current boss, I was never going to come on as a full-time employee. Some of the things were is like, I'm never going to work a weekend. I'm not on call at night. So I'm just the trainer and just a driver. I like it. Anyhow, all that aside, Friday was wild. And intermixed with all of that, I did probably 60 phone calls that were radio-based, amplifier-based questions and answers. I was smoke checked. I'm not going to lie. I was done with radio Friday night. I didn't want to be out here and dealing with this, touching this, talking about this, thinking about this kind of stuff at all. My phone rang so much last week. I don't know what it was. I think it was because half the country is trapped in with snow. I know that we're not very unique. We're not God's special little children up here in Idaho because we're the only ones that seen snow. The whole country's getting hit with it. My business partner called me from Dallas, Texas, and told me, he goes, man, we got snow down here, man. It's coming in the doors. It's crazy. He actually had his heater on. Poor feller. And from what I understand, in the southern portion of the United States, skip's been rolling quite a bit. So to all y'all that follow along with the saga, that's where we're at. So it is Monday morning. It is early. And we're going to try and get a little couple segments shot on this because I want to be done with this by the end of the day. This is a cute little box. The more I look at this, I admire the craftsmanship that's in here because this is, literally there is no solder where it doesn't need to have solder, which is a good thing. When you are building amplifiers, you can tell just at a glance how many times something has been reworked by how many solder splashes there are on the board. And I was admiring the fact that he didn't want to add another solder splash coming back this direction for the 10 ohmer. He took the 10 ohmer and flipped it forward and put it towards the transistor. That's something I don't like to do because the heat that comes off the transistor has a tendency to maybe affect the resistance value of this resistor, but that's a small thing. That and, the guys that came before me, they all put the resistor on the other side. Doesn't matter, I guess. I just really was admiring how clean this is in here. It is what it is. I just thought it was kick-ass. So let's see what we're working with here. Remember in the previous segment I was talking about this capacitor here. Let's go ahead and let's hook this up to the KC901 network analyzer. And know you guys, where did I put that turd bucket? This VNA, actually had somebody say to me, yeah, well, you got that fancy analyzer. I've got my VNA H here, and it does everything that your no, it does not. Not even remotely. This does not do, and this thing's a turd. The menu system in is a turd in my opinion. This is a very cheap network analyzer, antenna analyzer, and it works relatively accurately. I would say the actual data that's displayed here is probably with a plus or minus window of 15% positive or negative of actual fact. This is 0.01 or 0.1 at the most. So the menu system on here to me is very kludgy. The way this is set up is very, well, it's Chinesium. So not saying that this is bad. I'm not completely bagging on this 1,000%. If you don't want to buy an MFJ at their incredibly overpriced price point with incredibly shitty solder work on the inside, I swear to Christ, my 12-year-old daughter, when she was 12, could solder better than most of the guys that have been in MFJ for decades. I mean, just open up your MFJ 259B. Just take the back off of it and look in there, and half you guys out there, 2/3 of you guys out there can solder better than how that thing's assembled. And tell me how that thing's got an accuracy of... Or take 3 network analyzers, put them in a row, put them on your antenna, and test each one of them. And don't change anything in your... Just take the coax, and you're going to get 3 completely wildly different readings. If you don't want to have to deal with that with the MFJ, this is a fairly cheap, somewhat accurate piece of equipment. But do not get this fooled in your head thinking that this and this are even in the same country or same continent of equipment. Just saying. Everybody was talking about one of them things. I had to buy one of them. They're like $30 or $40. You usually find them on sale on Amazon or eBay for, I think, 45 to 25 bucks. And they're a very basic rudimentary antenna analyzer. The VNA is a great tool, but it ain't this. It ain't this. With its tone generating capability, its demodulation unit, its spectrum analyzer, it's about 17 other things I have no clue how to use. This thing's cool. Okay, so didn't have my coax connector tied all the way. This guy knew what he was doing. Let me show you why I say that is. Let's set this up here. I gotta take this call. It's my teacher, Prime Minister. Oh, that phone call took forever. Okay, and not that one, but the ones that came after it, and then I had to run off and go do other stuff. So what I was about to show you is this amp's ability to have RF come into it, go through all the different electrical connections across the relay, and then back out. And I was pointing out this cap over here. So let's zoom in here. And if memory serves me, when I set this up an hour ago, the meter is 100 megahertz wide. That's beautiful. So we're measuring from 52 megahertz wide. It's got an incredibly low pass-through. Now, why is this so important? And I go over this over and over and over. So now we're at 27 megahertz. We just went through the 27 megahertz band. So it's a 1.08, which is great. Which is great all the way through here. 1.08 all the way through here. Okay, why is that so important? Because RF passing through the thing is just as important in both directions. Not only does it show up as your ability to talk through it, otherwise have this attached to your radio, and then your ability to talk through it with the amplifier off, but SWR is nothing more than a very easy, simple way for people to understand resistance over frequency. So it's showing you what is the resistance to the signal at this frequency. And you want to, in this particular application, what you're searching for is the lowest amount of resistance passing through the amplifier, but also in the other direction. So if you have a high SWR when you talk through the amp. That means that you also have a high SWR from the antenna and the RF coming off the antenna. Now we're talking microvolts coming back to the receiver of the radio. Had many a situation where this particular circuit was not thought of by the builder, and the guy calls me and says, man, I can't hear out the amp. I can't hear out the amp. And I said, well, what's your pass-through SWR? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, instead of putting your watt meter over here, you put it here. You have your radio here, watt meter, then amplifier. Take your coax and hook it up to your antenna. You already know your SWR is good. You're just moving your SWR meter over one spot. Take your jumper that comes off your amplifier and normally comes to your radio, plug it into your watt meter, take another jumper and plug it into your radio. Set your SWR meter up the same, make sure your amplifier's off, and that'll tell you what your SWR is through the amplifier, and it should look almost exactly like what the watt meter showed you when the antenna was attached to it. That's what I mean by pass-through tune. You're looking at the tune, which is this here, of the RF that's passing through it. And the reason I want to make a big deal out of this is because this guy, Toolbox, from what I understand, is a very smart guy who built this amp. He showed, by showing this, me seeing this cap, I went, oh man, smart. If you can't have this relay snuggled right up here by these coax connectors, you have all this extra wire length, we call that inductor, we all the extra inductor length plus the length inside the coax, or inside the relay, from going from coax terminal to coax terminal, to balance out that impedance bump, or otherwise known as, you're going to change electrical potentials from a shielded piece of coax to open wire, then back to a shielded piece of coax. If that wire length is too long, it starts to show up as a high pass-through tune. And to see that, that told me there's a lot more knowledge going on here on the builder's part than most people are willing to give credit. So on that note, I'm going to leave this whole portion of the circuit alone. I'm going to leave this relay in. I'm going to leave this wire in the coax. I'm going to leave the potentiometer in. From there, I'm going to remove this, the input transformer. We're going to take this off. We're going to make it class B. We're going to take and change out our output transformer because I don't know what the ferrite mix is. I don't know. I don't know if this is type 43 and this is type 61. I don't know if this is 43 and that's type 61. I don't know. We're going to change out this choke. I'm going to try, but I think I'm going to have to move this, the power pad here. We're going to slide it over here a little bit. I'm going to try and keep as much in here as I can, but in the same breath, we're going to kick it up a notch. Now, I might need to pull this relay out and move the keying circuit because I do have to change out these coax connectors. These are Amazon specials. I think I got a couple of these laying around. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. These are the coax connectors I use. These are legit. I buy these from Max Gain Systems. And the way that these are constructed is this is one homogeneous piece of metal. The ferrule connection, otherwise the threaded body, the flat blank, and they're brought together and they're attached here in the back. And then it's a punch down system. This has got true Teflon in it, virgin Teflon, and then a true gold plated pin. These are about $2 to $3 a piece. This is an Amazon eBay equivalent. Now, why do I say that this is no good? We're going to show you here in a minute. If you type in Teflon gold plated PL259 into Amazon or eBay, this is what you're going to get. They junk sell these. They sell them for like $1.20 or less a piece. These might even be more. These might be $4 or $5 a piece. I don't know. I just buy a bag of 100 or 1,000 of them and move on. And what I mean, it's almost time to go buy some more because, yeah, they show up in bags of 75. This is quantity right here on the bag, 75. So I usually get 2 or 3 bags, and this is what I'm down to. So I'll log in before the end of the day and order up some more of those. For a lot of years I used Bakelite, and I think I got a couple of them. Because the actual real deal Teflon connectors for about a year were a little bit tough to get a hold of. I used these Bakelite connectors. You know, Bakelite being one of the very first plastics that we ever developed. Of course, it's a derivative from the space agency. These put up with a lot more punishment than these do. I don't use these anymore because we were able to start getting these back in stock again. And with the amount of money that I've spent on freaking parts in the last 2 weeks, God. I'm telling my wife the other day, I've never seen so much money come in and turn right around and get out the door for parts. I'm afraid we're going to run out of parts for a lot of this stuff here coming pretty quick. Anyhow, the PL259 issue here. This is 2 pieces of metal, believe it or not. You have your ferrule connector, and then you have a threaded den connection, whatever the connection. And then you have this is pressure treated. This is literally, the size of this shaft is the only thing holding this plate together. Once again, let me show you what I mean. I grab some tools here. But this isn't even the reason that I quit using these. I quit using, or even thought about using one of these. I quit using, or thinking about using these for another reason. They just come right apart. Like, ink right apart. There's physically no solder. This is some kind of bronze, brass, goldish colored material that's been plated with some known of unknownium nickel or something. These are silver, this is nickel, but you can clearly see there's no weld or nothing that goes on here. Let me zoom back in to make it easier for you guys to see. There we go. There's no weld that's taking place here. This is literally pressure fitted together. So the fear is here is, let's say the guy's got it in his truck and is banging down the road and his coax connector's banging up against something, and then he goes to fire down. Meanwhile, this thing has decided to pop out of its little holder and is going to go dangle loose out of the backside of the amp. Well, it's going to be banging up against the case. We'll regret this. Now, the only reason I know about this is because I bought some of these, and when they showed up here, I went, these things are crap. What is this? I don't know what this material is that's in here. They claim it's Teflon, but I'm going to show you here in a second that it is not. This is the legit version. This is real virgin Teflon. So, real Teflon does not burn. Never can, never will. I bought probably 20 of these because I couldn't believe the price. And I don't think I have very many of these left. I've given them away or thrown them away or whatever, but if I just hit this with a torch, that plastic is going to turn to goop here in a second. And then we should have a self-sustaining reaction. See, right now, if I wanted to, I could reach in there and slide that center pin out. Let's try it. Look at that. Here. Makes these dangerous. It's not even a solid plug of plastic. Look at that. This is so cold that I can hold it. This is like foam almost. Like literally I can squeeze this. This is how soft this is. There's nothing holding that in there. Nothing. It's 2 pieces of foam-based junk stuffed inside of this tube. And they get a little bit of heat on them, just a little bit of heat, and this pin starts to wander. It'll wander through the plastic and it'll start to drop down. Or the other thing that happens is this pin will flop out. It's crazy. Pardon me. The pin will flop out. I had that backwards. This is the inside bit. It's also kind of eye-opening to you. Here, let me show you something. This will blow your mind. Let me reheat this a little bit. Yeah. Teflon doesn't burn like a marshmallow. But once I show you the similarities between this, let me put that there. Between that and one other connector that we're all familiar with, you're going to be like, damn! Let me grab its male recipient here. So this is the side that goes into the connector. Here's your PL259. That's designed to slide inside of this as such. It's the exact same thing. This is the part that hangs out towards the amp. So here's your plate. It hangs through here out the back like this. Kind of scary, isn't it? Just think about it. Yup. Anyhow, we can't trust these connectors, and unless you knew, you would never know. And I'm not saying it's on the guy that built this. I'm sure he was giving it an honest effort for Abe Lincoln and everybody else. Honest Abe, as they used to say. I'm sure he was giving it an honest try, he just didn't know no different. It's the same, those are the same connectors that are in here. We're going to replace them with these two. So let's get this thing spun around and then we're going to change some stuff on it. And really, honestly, this isn't really a fair review against this amp, because what I should have done is before I pulled the transistors out, probably should have hooked the box up and seen what it did for watts. But honestly, all in all, very impressed with what this guy did. Very, very impressed. I'm going to get this amp done today, if it's the last thing I do. Okay, so we got the new Coax connectors in here. Here's our old ones, not to be confused. So we'll set them over here in the stuff that we're not going to use. All in all, this box was very well constructed. It only had solder where it needed to have solder, and I prefer to completely solder all the pill strips, completely. So what we're going to do is I'm reusing this 1000 puff cap, by the way, because it was a good part. That says a lot. If the technician is willing to actually use good parts, like these metal clads. This is an RF Parts 1000 puff cap, and it is 1000.02, I do believe. We're going to throw this in here. Then we're going to throw my personal input transformer in here. We'll slap that on right about there. Right about there. And we're going to reuse all these solder splashes. So by the time we're said and done, this thing's going to look pretty much like the inside of a BBI amp, except for the way the relay's laid out, and then this actual military standard variable. Yeah, it's 100. So that'll be perfect, and I'll change out this resistor too. But we're at the turnaround point. I know it looks a little rough, but when we come back, you're gonna be like, oh shit, look at that. You'll see. You'll see. I guarantee you, you'll see. Well, I tried sticking with my philosophy that I kept as much in here as I possibly could. But then we changed quite a few things in here, not gonna lie, and I mean, this box runs really, really good for what it is. So, Toolbox, appreciate you, sir. You did good work. Yeah. We added sideband to it, so you'll see that the LED indicator on the front has now been deleted. We've got an on-off switch. Put a made in the USA because, well, this is all made in the USA now. Even though it was before, I like having the American flag on the things I build. I'm just saying, it is what it is. We got the sideband tied in now, which we didn't have in the last segment. I like to fully test the circuit and see what I've got coming out of it for voltage first. You can't really test the circuit until you apply the input transformer and measure the amount of current that it is pulling. But we're going to stay with this stock little red fan. It's actually moving enough air. We're going to leave that in there, but let's get on to the testing bit and let's wrap this up. Because, come on, focus. I know my buddy Undertaker over there in Salem really wants to get this thing, so let's go ahead and make sure the amp is off. So what we've got is a 1,000 watt slug and peak, a 1,000 watt slug and average, and a 5 watt slug and reverse back from the Bird 10,000 watt dummy load. Hello, audio. We're running the Derail Striker 955 into this thing. Flick this mic cord down out of the way. We're going to need to show the face of the radio here in a second. Hello, audio. So putting about 100 peak into this thing, which this can handle. And that 100 peak is making right at about 500 watts. Right at about 500 watts. Hello, 1, 2. Hello, 1, 2. So we're looking at 0 megahertz all the way out through 264 megahertz. It's a huge hunk of frequency. We're at 0 all the way down to a negative 40, I do believe. $50. So that makes all of our secondary harmonics and whatever other garbage that we might be producing, which we can't help, 40 dBm down. Hello. So it's not even anything to be concerned with. Let's look at the radio on its own standing. Hello. Yeah. Not bad. Not bad. I kind of got myself in a conversation with a guy, and he says, you can't make an HG as clean as a Toshiba. And I was like, well, if you want to work with the circuit and massage it enough, you definitely can. It's not as easy, I'll say that much. HGs take a little bit more work, but... Hello, audio. Hello, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 audio 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Okay, so we've established this thing works good on AM. Audio 1 2. Let's go play with it on sideband. Hello, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 audio 1 2. Audio 1 2 1 2. And what we're listening for is the relays. Here, we'll put the mic down in here. And what we're listening for is for the relays to stay latched in between my words. Hello, audio 1 2 1 2 1 2. Hello, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Audio 1 2 1 2 1 2. Okay. The reason that's important is because we want the relays to stay connected and them not being chattering in between each one of the words. And we don't want to have that sideband delay any longer than it absolutely needs to be. So when you do come off the mic, you instantly have receive again. So let's go over here and we'll go back to AM. Hello, 1 2 1 2. Now we're using a 12-foot jumper from the 955. And what we're looking at here is we're going to be looking at both windows. Should take a minute and gander at this one here. Hello, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. And anybody that's got a striker will tell you that this meter is really hard to get happy. I've had this meter where it's happy and there's no reflect, and this one's still telling me I got a reflect at 1.2. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So this meter's happy, that meter's happy, we're happy. The 12.5 foot long jumper between this connector right here and down here at the radio. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello, 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 hello. I'm happy. And I think my buddy Undertaker over there, he's going to be perfectly happy too. We got some big plans for him. We're going to build him some kick-ass shit here in a few months. I got a lot of kick-ass shit I got to go make. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, audio, 1, 2. Okay. Now let's see what happens when we grab our dial-a-bird, we turn our bird watts all the way up. Hello, audio, 1, 2, 1, 2. Helped a little bit. Hello, audio. Turn our dial-a-bird back down. Let's go to sideband. Now we're looking at this second meter here. Hello, audio, 1, 2, 1, 2. So the potential's there. All depends on how you drive the radio, or drive the radio into the amp. Well, gentlemen, that's it. I'm done. This is a fun little rebuild. It took forever to get done. I mean, but I've got an incredibly busy life, and I got a lot of shit going on all the time. Of course, the damn weather don't help none neither. I'm going to call this a good win. I'm going to put the screws back in it from which it came with, and we're going to get it shipped off to its new home. Gentlemen, I want to say thank you very much for following along. Thank you very much for tuning in and seeing what we're doing over here. And honestly, I don't get to do any of this without your guys' support. And I feel very lucky and blessed to be able to enjoy this portion of the hobby the way I do with all of you guys. And I just want to say thanks. Big shout out to Excess Power Siglet Berg Coaxial Dynamics. And I say it in every video, but I mean it sincerely. A big thanks to all of you guys.